Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and thank you so much for clicking. In today's tutorial, we are going to be making a cover up, which I know it's like the middle of summer. Why haven't I made a cover up yet? But I'm finally making one. And we're making it in the color lime green, my favorite color, but we're going to get into that in a minute. Before we get started, I want to ask you all to please subscribe to the channel, like the video, share, and let me know in the comments what color you're going to be making yours in. So what I'm using for this tutorial is True Blue yarn. This yarn is in the color Celery. It's a lime green color, but the color is called Celery. This is 100% rayon from Bamboo, and it's a weight 3 yarn. I'm also going to be using measuring tape, a size 4mm hook, scissors, and a stitch marker. So I'm getting started with my slip knot. Then I'm going to make a chain of 99 plus 2, so 101. Okay, so we have our chain, and I'm going to be placing a double crochet in the third chain from my hook. So I already have that blocked off. Right here, I have my finger on it. That's where we're placing our double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. Okay, and then we're placing double crochets in each chain, going down, okay, so now we have our foundation row. Something that I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention before, is what this is. Actually, this is the length from under one arm, or whichever arm, under your arm, going down the length that you are going to want this to be. Now this looks really short, but this yarn, this will grow. So you always have to keep that in mind, that it's going to grow. Sometimes you have to play around with it and crochet a couple rows to see how much growth you're gonna get. But yeah, so this looks short, but this is gonna grow as we continue to crochet, but it is gonna be short. It is meant to be like pretty mini in length, but if you want it longer, you will just make a longer chain. Yeah. So now we have our foundation row of double crochets. We are going to chain 2 and turn. And then we're just placing double crochets in each stitch down. So after this row, you're going to do 3 more rows, so a total of 5 rows of double crochet. Yeah, so I will meet you after you have your 5 rows of double crochets. So here we have our 5 double crochet rows. Now we're going to chain 2. Chain 2 and turn, and then we're going to place a double crochet into that first stitch and then chain 1. Sorry, I keep having to fix this hook. It's like sliding down, so I keep having to push it up, so excuse me for that. Okay, so chain 1, skip the next stitch and double crochet in the third stitch. Okay, now chain 1 again, skip the next stitch and double crochet in the next stitch. After that, chain 1 and do the same thing, skip a stitch and place a double crochet into the next stitch. All right, and this yarn can be a bit splitty at times, so but once you work with it for a little bit, you get, you know, into the groove of things with it, so it doesn't do it as much, but kind of be careful with that, I guess. That can be annoying. But yeah, so we're just going to continue down this row, doing the same thing, creating our mesh stitch. Yeah, just do that all the way down the row, and I'll meet you at the end. I'm completing the last mesh stitch. Now I'm going to chain 2 and turn. And then I'm going to place a double crochet into that first stitch. Chain 1, and then skipping the next stitch. We're not going into the space, we're going into the top of the double crochet from the previous row. Chain 1, and continue going down. So that's all you're gonna do. You're just gonna keep doing the same thing, basically. Just double crochet, skip a stitch, and double crochet. Okay, so I'll meet you at the end of this row. So I have my last row of mesh stitch. So far we have 5 rows of double crochets and 2 rows of mesh stitch. Now we're going to chain 2, turn, and then we're just going to do a row of double crochets. Okay, and so I'm going into the space, not into the stitch. So, okay, so when we get to the spaces, each double crochet, we're just going to place a double crochet into the top of it. But when we get to the space, I'm not going inside of that stitch, I'm going inside of the hole. Okay, so just do that all the way down. Okay, so now I have a row of just double crochets. Now I'm going to chain 2, turn, and then I'm going to place an increase for this row. So I'm going to yarn over and place a double crochet into the first stitch, and then in that same stitch I'm going to place another double crochet. Okay, and that's how I'm increasing. And then I'm going to place a double crochet in each stitch going down this row. And then my next row after this is just a row of double crochets. Okay, so it's double crochet, increase row, double crochet row. Okay, no increase. So I will meet you when I get back to this row. So just go down this row right as usual and just place double crochets in each stitch, chain 2, turn, place double crochets for the next row, no increase, and then I will meet you there. We'll be meeting back here. Okay, All right, so now I have just completed my double crochet row with no increase. So we have a no increase row, an increase row, and a no increase row. The next row is going to be an increase row. So I'm going to chain 2 and turn. I'm going to repeat what I just did, and I'm going to place well, not what I just did, but what I did on the row before last. I'm going to place 2 double crochets into the first stitch, and then I'm going to double crochet all the way down. Okay, so you're just repeating your last 2 rows, increase row, and then no increase again. So just do what we just did. Go all the way down this row with double crochets, and then chain 2 and turn, and do another row of double crochets with no increase. Okay, so here we have our 5 double crochet rows, and we have 2 increases. So we have an increase here and an increase here. And this is kind of going to be the repeat. So we're about to do 2 more rows of mesh stitch. It's just important to make sure that the increases end up on this side, and that you do 2 of them within this 5 double crochet space. So I'm going to do the next set with you. But yeah, so we're just increasing on one side of the piece. All right. So now we're about to do this, the mesh stitch row. So chain 2 and turn. Place a double crochet into the first stitch. Chain 1. Skip the next stitch and place a double crochet. All right, and do 2 rows of this just like we did here, and I'll meet you at the end of that. I have my mesh stitch rows, 2 rows of that. Then I'm going to chain 2 and turn, and then I'm just going to do a row of double crochets with no increases, just like we did before. I'll meet you at the end of this row. All right, so now we're going to chain 2 and turn. Now previously we increased here. We increased at the beginning of this row down here. But our increase is on this side. So now we're going to increase at the end of the row instead. So now I'm going to go down this row, and I'm going to place 2 double crochets in the last stitch of this row as my increase. Okay, and then you are pretty much just repeating that pattern. So what I'm going to do now, after I do that, then I'm going to do another row of double crochets with no increase, and then another row with double crochets and an increase at the end, and then another row of double crochets, and then my mesh stitch. And then I'm just repeating this all the way through until I have it the width of my hips. Yeah, I do know how many I did, because I'm already working on the second panel. So I continued this until I had a total of 61 rows. That should give you a size 1X, 2X. But yeah, continue until you have at least half of your hip measurement. The tighter, it's up to you, because the smaller you do it, the less rows you do, of course, the tighter it will be. So you can do it to a different measurement if you wanted to. But I'm just going to make it to my hips. That's about it. So just keep going. making sure you're adding those increases on the correct side. And I will meet you after you've completed however many rows you need to do. Just make sure you end as well. Make sure you end with 5 double crochets. Yeah, don't end on a mesh stitch. And just to be clear, this is what I mean when I say increase at the end of the row. It's just the same thing as the other increase, but I just wanted to show you guys. So in the last stitch, we are placing 2 double crochets, okay? Like that. And then chain 2, turn, and continue with our pattern. All right, so here is the completed panel. You're gonna need 2 of these, but this is the completed first panel. You can see that it goes up, and down here it's just straight across, no increasing on this side, just at the top here. So next what we're gonna do is start seaming up the sides. So on this side, I'm gonna seam all the way up to the top. And then on this side, we're not gonna go as far up because we need to leave space for our arm. So on this side, we're not gonna go as far up, and then we have to seam the back panel and the front panel together up here, where we're gonna leave it a little open, which is optional. Of course, you don't have to leave it open, but I'm gonna leave it a little open. Yeah, right here, and yeah. So I'm starting off with the lower side, and I am just starting from the bottom, and I'm going to seam all the way to the top. So from down here all the way to the top here. So I'm attaching my yarn through both panels. And I'm going to single crochet to seam these together. Okay. All right, so both sides are seamed up. The lower side that goes under the arm, that side was seamed up all the way, so 99 stitches. The other side, we had to leave space for our arms, so I only seamed up 80 stitches, just to be clear. So the side where the shoulder part is, I seamed up 80 stitches, the higher side. Okay, so this part where our like arm is gonna be showing and everything, this part we are going to I put my stitch mark, so I put a stitch marker here and I put a stitch marker here, so this is 26 rows apart where I put my stitch markers. Now if you're making a smaller size, you probably don't want to do that. You might want to do like a third of the way. That will probably work out, because this isn't, I didn't do it half of the way. I didn't put the stitch markers half the way. Yeah, a third of the way of however many rows you did for yours. So this is 26 rows out of 60, so 61. So I think if you just did it a third of the way for whatever size you're making, that would be fine. This is going to be like a 1x, 2x. But yeah, so this is where I am going to stitch up some. So I'm going to stitch up, let's say I'm going to do 3 rows here. I'm going to seam, and then here I'll do the same thing. I'll seam up 3 rows there. You want to do more than like 1 or 2 stitches for sure, because this is a thinner yarn, so you want to make sure you make it a little secure. Yeah, so I'm about to do that. So I'm just reattaching my yarn at the ends of these rows. And now I'm going to single crochet to seam these rows together. Okay. Woo. So that side is done. Make sure it's still inside out on the part where you did the other seams. Just want to mention that. And now I'm gonna do the same thing here. So I'm gonna start here. It's a piece of yarn. I'll try to crochet that in. All right, so now we have that part is done. Honestly guys, when I first started doing this, I was planning on just closing this whole part. So you could do that if you wanted to, like not leave this little piece open. But then when I had put the stitch markers to close, I was like, oh, that's cute. And I felt like it was cuter than when it was closed. I just felt like it looked cuter with this. It made it look slouchier and just overall cuter with the open part. But yeah, you could close it up if you wanted to close it up. That would work as well. And now we just need to clean up. Okay, so what I'm about to do, this is done. So your cover up is done. So if you want to just wear it, you're good. It's done other than just weaving in your ends. But I always like to clean up my edges, the edges of my rolls. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to clean up the edges of my rolls, and then I'm going to do that on the top and the bottom. And then I'm going to add fringe. I will go over that with y'all also. So I'm going to turn it inside to the right side of our work. So here, pulling it inside out or back to the right side. I don't know why I always say it backwards. So here we go. And I will start here because we're just, for this portion, where the armhole that we left open, not our armhole on the side, because where our arm is going to go through, I'm talking about the shoulder hole, because this part already has double crochets here, so you don't really need to clean that up. Here is what I'm talking about, where our shoulder and like our top portion of our arm will be. This is what I'm going to clean up. So I'm also going to just weave in these, well, not weave them in, I'm going to crochet over these ends as I go. So I'm going to start right next to where I seamed up this side and reattach my yarn. Okay, and then I'm going to do single crochets going around. Sorry, I thought I was recording and I wasn't, but when I got back to this part, I just slip stitch into, when I went all the way around, I slip stitch into the single crochet here. When I complete this part, I will show y'all how I did the slip stitch in case you don't know. Yeah, sorry about that. So now I'm going to do the same thing to this part where our other arm and like other shoulder and chest area and all that under our neck and whatever, this part, the bigger opening, I'm going to do that with double crochets. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing but double crochets this time, and I'm going to start here next to this seam. Alright, so I just switched hooks because the other one is just like falling apart, but this one is still a 4mm, so it looks different, but it is the same size. And I'm going to reattach here. So I reattach my yarn and I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to begin placing double crochets all the way around. All right, so now this is how I just slip stitch. I'm gonna go into the top of the first double crochet I made and pull my yarn through and then fasten off. Okay. These are not the scissors I like. These are the scissors I like. No. All right, so now I'm going to do the same thing I just did here around the bottom. I'm going to do double crochets around the bottom. All right, so double crochets around this bottom. So you guys know how we're doing it now, so I'm just gonna do that, and then I will, after I do the double crochets around the bottom, what else did I say I was gonna do? Oh, I'm going to add fringe. Y'all, I thought I was recording and I was not, so I already did one of my fringes. So what I did was I made a bunch of strings that were about 18 inches. I cut a bunch of them out, and I'm now placing them. I'm gonna place them about 2 inches apart. My suggestion for making the strings is to make them longer than you want them to be. I'm pretty good on the length that I'm making though, but I would suggest making them longer and then trimming them down. But the length that I'm doing, this should drop, these should come to like my knee, maybe a little bit above it. But yeah, you can make these fringes as long as you want to make them, but I wanted them to be kind of short. All right, so I'm gonna pull through, I'm going through my stitches, and then I'm gonna pull that through make sure that I keep this even before I knot it. And then I'm kind of going to do a slip knot. Now to secure it, if you're making this and you're sure about where the fringes are placed and you are sure about not wanting to take them out or whatever, you will then knot it to keep it tight and keep it secure like that, okay? And you can do that like twice, 2 or 3 times, just to make sure it's on there tight. I'm not gonna do that because I am comfortable with it. I'm comfortable leaving them alone, and plus I might want to take them out at some point. And it'll be easier to take out if they're not knotted, but I definitely suggest putting a knot. I do feel like when you put the knot though, it does create like a little bit of space. Doing it a few more times might help with that, but I think it's worth it if you're like making it for a client or something, because you don't want it to like come out on them. But yeah, this is the one without the knot, this is the one with the knot. It's not that big of a difference. But anyways, I'm just going to do that all the way around, like I said, 2 inches apart, and then your project is complete. There's not much to go over. But yeah, thanks so much for watching this tutorial. You will see in the pictures with the fringes and all of that. So yeah, so now we're done. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. In the description box, you will find links to my social medias. Please follow me. If you make this item, please tag me. I'd love to see what you make and share what you make. Please tag me. Also, I started a group on Facebook called Plus Size Style and Design. So if you would like to join that group, that will also be in the description box. So check that out. At some point, the written pattern will be on my blog. I'm currently working on my blog at the time that I am making this. I've been working on my blog. I have my domain name and I've been like editing my blog and everything, and I will have written patterns on my blog for free. So that will be in the description box soon. Maybe not as soon as this is uploaded, but it will be in the description box eventually. Also, what else? Oh, of course, subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment down below. I want to know what color you're making this in. Also, I want to know where you're wearing it to. You know, let me know where you're going in this. Are you going on vacation? You going to the pool? Let me know. Just talk to me and share this video with someone you think would enjoy it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.